Hello everyone, and welcome to our new live webcast, 1 + 1 = 3, Managing Entitlements Through the Product Lifecycle. Join us each month for new powerful messages, technical tips, and success stories that will leave you inspired and ready to get your protection, licensing, and security techniques another step closer to perfection. At WIBU-SYSTEMS, we empower software publishers and intelligent device manufacturers with cutting-edge technologies, new business models, and tailor-made consultant training. Let us help you upgrade, optimize, and automate your entire license lifecycle management so you can focus on monetizing your business at a higher level. My name is Daniela Previtali, Global Marketing Director of WIBU-SYSTEMS, and I'm delighted to have you here with us today. We are joined by Stefan Bamberg, Senior Key Account and Partner Manager at WIBU-SYSTEMS, and Michael Kless, Director, Solution Management at SAP. The ability to monetize software products has become one of the factors deciding the fate and fortunes of companies. Licensing responds to the many needs and requirements. Managing licensing and user entitlements is an issue that concerns many functions and departments across the entire business. The combined solution offered by SAP Entitlement Management System and CodeMeter bridges the gap between sales, provisioning, and fulfillment. Some housekeeping we need to take care of before we start. For everyone who's joining us today, I want to remind you that we will be reserving some time at the end of the session for Q&A. And I'd like to invite you to submit any question you have in the live chat box. This session is being recorded, and a link to the replay will be posted directly to you in the next couple of days. And don't forget, stay with us throughout the live session for your chance to win 4 hours of free CodeMeter consultation from the most brilliant minds at our company. At the end of the webinar, a new tab in your browser with 3 simple quiz questions will show up. You should submit one choice for each multiple answer question. We will draw the winner from among those replied correctly and notify them at the time of the replay announcement. Please also note that the winner is excluded from all subsequent prize draws of 2021. Without further ado, I'll pass things over to Stefan. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Daniela, for that introduction. Welcome to our webinar 1 + 1 = 3, Managing Entitlements Through the Product Lifecycle. I'm Stefan Bamberg, Senior Key Account and Partner Manager of WIBU-SYSTEMS. First, I would like to apologize to all of you and especially to my mathematics teacher for the title of this webinar. This statement is, of course, completely wrong. But what I want to express is that the cooperation of WIBU-SYSTEMS with SAP in the field of entitlement management is much more than just the benefit of each single solution. The goal of this webinar today is to explain this cooperation based on a technical level. And so I'm happy to welcome Mr. Michael Kless from SAP, who introduces in the first part the basics of the SAP entitlement management before I complete the picture with our CodeMeter technology. And so again, Mr. Kless, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Bamberg. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. The industry that we are currently experiencing is looking forward to sell everything as a service. Everything is sold as a service because that's the best way to secure your margin and secure your customer interaction. As part of that, software plays a really critical role. Software selling and new business models around software is the most asked questions that we get in customer interactions. My name is Michael Kless. I'm part of the high-tech industry at SAP, specifically also taking care of the software segment in that industry. When we talk about monetizing software or monetizing digital content in general, one key topic comes up increasingly, and that's how to manage entitlements. And why is that? And before we go there, why is that and how does that work in a well-orchestrated way from a sales motion down to the fulfillment, we should clarify what is entitlement. What do we understand what an entitlement is? It's basically, and to keep that very simple, is anything that you promise to your customer, any right that you promise to your customer as part of a sales motion, as part of a contract negotiation, even if you give it away for free, but you have that offered as part of the discussion, that's something that you need to monitor and your customer expects. And it's not only a software license that can be creating an entitlement. It can also be obviously the combination of software and service, which is a typical case, but it can also be digital content, analysis, insight that you create out of data that you analyze for your customer, aggregated data that you aggregate from different customers, or digital content in a way that you consume it as a private person, as a consumer from your streaming portals. The more complex scenarios are typically combinations of those, where you sell hardware, software, and services in a bundle as a solution offering, and from those you create a significant amount of entitlements to your customer, specifically when moving into a everything as a service subscription scenario. Examples you see on the right on what these entitlements could be. Those are not only the user licenses, as you can see. It's also access to support, obviously. It's access to a learning portal. It's access to a knowledge base to share between you and other customers about how to utilize the software. It can also be warranty for your hardware. So all of these create entitlements to your customer, and you need to manage those for your subsequent processes after the initial sales has been done. So how do we manage that, and why is it actually a topic to discuss? Because haven't we done that for years? Actually, not quite. There's a huge amount of discussion happening on why should I go forward with SKU proliferation to create specific material numbers for any combination of hardware, software, service for different regions and different provisioning methods. There's a different level of magnitude that is currently happening regarding how many scenarios and how many attributes and how many entitlements get created as part of a customer interaction. And the second piece that's specifically true for customers that are coming from a world where they used to sell hardware, where they used to sell products, and basically was fire and forget. And once it was shipped, you did have to deal with service maybe and warranties, but that's about it. With software, it's different. With entitlements and everything as a service model, it's different. You have to take care of the whole life cycle across multiple dimensions of that entitlement. So examples you can see here. If you sell a software license, if you sell a backup cloud service, if you sell content subscription, or if you sell training services or give away training services, all of them have a different kind of behavior, how to fulfill those, how to respect those for your customer, and they definitely have different types of attributes that come with that. And then over the life cycle of upselling, renewal the license, returning the license, upgrading, doing status changes, all of that is happening and is a new process for many of the customers we talk to. The third element, why it's difficult to manage entitlements for our customers, is the sheer variety and combinations that you can go through. If you sell different products, different product types, via different channels, via different buying models, via different billing methods and delivering methods and supporting offerings that you have and service types that you have, you will figure out your sales colleagues are open to combine any potential combination that they can think of. If that opens a new market for them, a new business model for your company, they will go for it. And the last thing you want to do is tell them that IT can't manage that, IT won't be able to support that because it's so complex to set up. So to speak with a quote that I like to use from a customer that we talked to, we don't know how and what we sell in the next 6 months. We just don't know. Maybe half of what we do as a new business model, we are not aware yet. We need to be prepared that we can sell in any new business model that we can think of, and that we can set it up as part of a configuration, as a modeling, instead of going through an IT project anytime we come up with a new way of selling our offerings or providing our offerings to our customers. So that drives the need for managing effectively entitlements. Now, if you look at what is the solution that we built for that, looking at entitlement management, this is a solution that we built as part or based on our business technology platform, BTP, and it can act. Technically, it can act standalone. I come to the logical connections that make sense, but as a system that is built specifically for entitlement management, in the core of it is obviously the repository of all the entitlements that are active or have been active, and that model the rights that you gave to your customer. The value, the real value, and the core value is also in the modeling, making or providing an intelligent way of modeling your entitlements, modeling how to set up the rights for your customer, when to set up the rights for your customer, and varying those depending on how the sales motion happens, and then supporting it across the life cycle, and then providing that insight, providing that 360 view that's sometimes overused, providing that 360 view in different domains, be it sales, be it service, be it customer satisfaction, be it marketing, to utilize the data that's coming in here to make use for next business successes that you want to drive with those customers. So while it's built as a separate system and can be implemented very, very modular, the typical scenario looks like that. You have a commerce or a sales domain where you sell your offering. This typically creates a contract or an order or a quotation, and this then via an interface triggers SAP Entitlement Management to create those entitlement records for that specific customer, for that specific offering that he bought. The world doesn't stop there, obviously. Once it's sold, customer expects to get something. And this is then the process of delivering the license, providing the binary, creating the license key, and hand it over to the customer so that he actually can use and activate the solution. Other scenarios downstream are providing updates. Information goes back and forth between this system of record here and the software and the device. And you also collect consumption. Sometimes if you have a more complex scenario of usage-based billing, for example, where you want to collect on a regular basis the consumption of the software that is used or the device that is used. Second, there's the domain that utilizes that data. There's the domain of working with your partners, both in indirect sales motions or as a service partner to provide the maintenance for your offering. There's the customer itself who wants to get insight on how he is using your offering, your software, how actual is the software, how often did he use it, how long is the subscription period still running. All of these informations, again, is something that you can bring it together for this end customer via the entitlement management system. When we look at how does this work, SAP EMS, how does it work? It makes sense to look at a live demo. Before I show you the live demo, I want to structure that a bit. The key part that you will see is the setup. The setup happens while your product owners define the product and prepare for product launch. So they, in that process, define, if I sell X, how many entitlements and what entitlements does my customer get with X? What attributes do I want to monitor? How do these entitlements behave if I go through an upsell process? Do I create a new entitlement for the customer, or do I update the existing one? So maintaining rules on how to create those entitlements in specific business processes. That's where the intelligence lies, where the modeling lies, and where you add value by not just creating hundreds, thousands of SKUs for any potential combination that we saw before. That's the setup phase. And then there's the runtime phase, where you then, after product launch, sell the product, sell the solution that you want to offer to your customer. You get order data, and then via that before created offering and mapping of the entitlement, you then just create in the background without anybody touching the system, creating those entitlement records and make them available for the subsequent processes. So those are the two main elements that you will see in the demo in a second from now. Before I go there, quickly on integration and partner solutions, as I said, there's an SAP perspective on how the process typically looks. Obviously, we are not addressing all process specifics. So for that, we work closely with partners such as WIBU and CodeMeter, but also work with underlying systems that have a dedicated purpose, like a commerce system or a billing system. And as said, for the fulfillment, for the authentication, for access control, we work closely as a partner with WIBU and CodeMeter, and also other partners like Digital Root for business that is more pay-per-use and complex mediation that takes place. Again, all of those data then works together to create a 360 view on the entitlement management side. Today we will focus on how does a process work from order down to fulfillment, and to automate that for you so that you don't have to worry about manual effort or lost data in that process. Now, let me switch to the demo actually and show you how does that work in the system. So what you see here is the SAP Entitlement Management System. And to explain it in the short time that we have, I would like to start with the end result in mind, showing you what happened after your product owners created the entitlement models, and to explain how does that prepare them for the product launch itself. So let's look at entitlement models for a specific offering. So let's assume you are producing a professional 3D printer. Let's see. Let's take this one. You have a 3D printer, and this one is actually one that does print dental inlays, dental crowns, and so on for dentists or dental labs. This 3D printer that you sell as part of your catalog and that you offer in the order, this is linked by the product owner in the setup to 5 different entitlement models. Those 5 different entitlement models in this case, as an example, are the installation service, the 3D printing software itself, a learn and share entitlement, meaning that customers of yours can share with other customers on how to best set up such a printer, for example, the subscription for the printer itself, and then the support that comes with the software or the offering in total. Those are the 5 entitlements that get created typically, or can get created as part of your decision from the product owner when selling this product. Now let's look at one of these or 2 of these in more detail. Let's start with the installation service. So the installation service as an entitlement model is defined as a service entitlement that gets consumed by a customer. It's designed for a direct distribution channel and has some additional attributes, like in this case, a license key for an installation for a dedicated asset. As you can see, there's no default value. As part of the demo and the webinar today, you will see how this gets addressed and how this can get filled over the process to make this process fully automatic. This was one entitlement model. Now let's look for a different entitlement model, and that is for the printing and design software. See, it's a different type of entitlement. It's a license entitlement. It gives the customer the right to run that software. It has a specific lifecycle status model that describes how the status of this entitlement, this right for the customer, changes over the lifetime. And it has a completely different set of attributes that come with this entitlement and what the specific features are that you're selling with the software in this case. All of these attributes, all of these descriptions are highly flexible, and I will show you in a second how this works. These are the entitlement models, and the idea is that you reuse those entitlement models not only for this one Pro 3D SLA Classic V2, but for similar products in that category. So you make use of a normalization, reuse of entitlement models for different products that have similar entitlement types that you want to create for those, and then you can map them together and select those that are fitting for the next product that comes in that category. The second piece that comes in that overview is the mapping. You see the mapping piece. The mapping actually describes this dedicated entitlement model that we just showed is linked specifically to this offering. Now, this specific offering that can be described as this line between those two boxes. If you look at the mapping, so what does that mean? If you look at the detail here, you see it describes how information flows from the original order, in this case, to the entitlement management system. So it designs and defines how, for this mapping of this specific entitlement to this specific product, data is flowing from the S4 system that you will see later to EMS. Here it defines the valid from and valid to date comes actually from the order. It has some default values for this product and a specific value for what region it's valid for, and other specific attributes that you want to fill as part of the mapping. So those are the two pieces of information that are going into the modeling. How did we get here? So that's, as said, the end state after your product owner defined that's what we want to sell together or provide together with the sales of this solution. How do we get there? How do we model that? Let's look quickly at the configuration that is behind that. It's actually pretty simple. All of that, what you saw, can be easily modeled via this one screen here. You decide basically once for your company, which different types of entitlements do you have, which units of measure do you want to monitor, number of calls, amount of terabytes, number of licenses, seats, and so on, which business events you want to track, and so on. And then you define different attributes and values, the attributes that you saw before, what in consumption forms, how we want to track consumption of entitlements, and then combine them all together in that entitlement model. And then if you do that, and that's quickly done as a real configuration, not coding, and quickly done by non-IT experts as part of a product owner role, for example, then you have this set up and can reuse quickly and change business models as quickly as your sales teams want to have that. So that is the setup. That is the initial phase. Now switch gears to what happens at runtime. If you look at runtime, let's look what happened in the background. So let's look at one customer. Yeah. Do this different. I show you the customer insights. So let's assume you sold this product to a dental lab. And this is your customer dental labs. And we see for this customer dental labs, he has 3 different entitlement types, 26 entitlements in total, rights that you owe him, basically, out of 3 different types: support, license, and service. Let's look at the license entitlements. You see those here, and you can then use that as a basic report of checking how many entitlements are out there, which ones are expiring, when do you need to re-trigger a renewal, and so on. But then you basically have the access to the individual record like this one. This is one entitlement in the record, in the repository, that basically describes the right that your customer is looking for to get fulfilled. So Dental Labs bought something. They bought this product via this entitlement model that we showed you. These entitlement was created for the customer. He has a license entitlement, excuse me, and he bought the software basic features, 3D design for import, access printers from everywhere, and the dashboards. And we can also see the history of this right that was created. So with this reference document, which is the sales order number, this entitlement was created. We got an activation as an update, and later on another activation for the installation that was completed. We also see the other entitlements and rights that were provided to that customer with the same reference document. So you see the learn and share installation service down to subscription that are coming from the same sales order and are accompanying this one entitlement record that we are currently looking at. So that's where we have this specific right that the customer is looking for to get fulfilled. And what you don't see is the license key. So the license key typically is a critical information that you want to model or monitor here as well. So how do we get this information into the system? And that's where the combination with CodeMeter and WIBU takes place. So let's see how this works. So for that, let me switch to a short video that we did, because the interesting part is, and the good part is, that you actually don't see a lot, because this is highly automated. So looking at this process, we start with an S4 system. This can also be a different ERP system, but the typical scenario is an S4 system where you create an order. In this case, a standard SD order. You sell to a specific customer, sold to party. You can provide a customer reference, which in this case obviously is this demo. You define what you sell, business as usual. You sell this product, which is a 3-year support. You sell 12 licenses, and you save it, and then you see the order 98 has been created. Now switching to the entitlement management system that we saw before, looking for this reference document, this sales order 98, and you will see, okay, this reference document, the sales order that we just created this entitlement. It's created this entitlement that we are now looking at, the repository entry that we also looked before before. You see there's this reference document number with 98, and then there we see magically the license key. And you see also on the top the notification, there was a email sent that this license key got created. We now also look back into the sales order. Again, check what happened there, and also there we see the same license key that got created is there listed as a reference. So as said, not much to see here. The beauty lies behind that, because that happens 100,000 times a month, a day sometimes, and nobody wants to touch that. This needs to happen highly automated and highly reliable in the background. So now switching to Mr. Bamberg and how he will explain to you what happens actually between we create the order, the entitlement management gets created via the model that we did, and then magically the license key comes back. There happens a lot of interesting stuff in between, and that's where WIBU comes in, and Mr. Bamberg will explain what actually happens in that process to make that as seamless as you saw it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Claes, for your detailed explanations and the demo. It's pretty great to be part of that beauty. And I promise I will unveil the secret of the license key a little bit later in my presentation and in my demo. But let me explain first the basics of our code meter technology and how both systems work together in a perfect way. So what we have learned in the presentation of Mr. Glaes is that an entire entitlement management solution needs two parts. The administration part that he has showed in that demo before, which is extremely important because you manage all necessary contractual legal affairs and of course the content of the entitlement as an option to be integrated in an existing back office structure as well. Yeah? So if you have an SS4HANA system, you can create all the orders in the system. Then you have a smooth connection to the SAP entitlement system. And you need the end customer part. You need something to transfer the technical entitlements to a customer and enforce the technical entitlements on this side, because you want to make sure that your software is only used according to the entitlements that you have bought or that the customer has bought from you. And so you need a system that works perfectly together from the side of the administration part of the entitlement management and the technical part of the entitlement management. And therefore, we connected both systems. And I want to show you the idea that is the basic of code meter. So we have the two slogans, integrate once and deliver many. And integrate once means you as an independent software vendor or intelligent device manufacturer, you have software. You have plain software on PCs, or you have software that is running on an embedded device. And you want to make sure that nobody steals your intellectual property, and you want to monetize your software based on the entitlements that we have seen before. So this is the technology that we have on the one side, that to integrate in your software, to check for licenses, to check for roles, for authentications. And on the other side, you deliver your application to the customers. And the idea is to deliver the same application to all your customers so that all the functionalities is available in that application, but the entitlements control at the end which functions are allowed to be used by the users or by the devices. So you see here we have several persons who get licenses or devices that get licenses, and the software is running according to these licenses. And the other idea is that the licenses has to be transferred, the entitlements has to be transferred to the customers, to the end users, and to the devices. And that is done via a technical entitlement server that we have implemented, and we are working with that solution since decades. And there is the connection between the SAP entitlement management system and our technical entitlement systems, so that you have the full chain from getting an order in and transferring the entitlements to the end user's PC or devices so that they can use the software accordingly to the entitlements they have bought. We support different ways to store that entitlements. The high sophisticated way is to put the entitlements on a dongle. This is, I would not say an old-fashioned, but it's the formal way to do that, and it is the technical best way to secure the entitlements. But we also support plain software activations, which resides just on the hardware of the PC, and cloud solutions that are available or allowed to make entitlements available in a cloud solution without any need for something on the premise computer or the device of a customer. And we support the online and the offline transport of entitlements, because especially in the industry sector, it is extremely necessary to have a solution that transfers entitlements to an offline device, because these devices are normally, even if we talk about Industry 4.0 and IoT, in a separate network that is far away from the internet. If we talk about license models, we are working on that since more than 30 years. And we have a lot of different predefined license models that work together with the ones that you can administrate and create in the SAP Entitlement Management System. So starting with feature-based licenses, where each feature has a separate license, and if the customer buys the license, he can use this feature. And that is the most used license model that I know. Of course, we have time-based license models, so subscription models, which are very much used in the field, because you can earn more money with such a recurrent revenue than getting an upfront invest from your customers. We support also pay-per-use licenses, pay-per-time licenses, so that you have special license models for certain markets or certain regions, so that you can sell your software in a different way in one country than in another country. Of course, there are user-based licenses, named licenses, network licenses, where you can transfer such a network license to your customers, and the customer is able to support licenses within his network just by supporting a license server that carries all the entitlements. There are, of course, try licenses. There are borrow licenses, so that you can even borrow licenses out of a network as a local license for the weekend, for example, or for another region. There are maintenance contract-based licenses. So you can define the start and the end point of a maintenance contract, and we make sure that all the licenses that all the software releases that exactly fit in that maintenance contract period are working, can be used. And that's something that you can rely on. So you define that in the entitlement management system, and we make sure that on the end customer side, this is automatically checked and enforced. And for all the license models, and we can think about that license model as much as we can, there are some special requirements from customers for certain customer-specific license models. And that is the reason why we also support several parts of the license that you can use transparently for us for certain values that you want to have in your entitlement, because maybe a serial number that has to be checked of a device that is connected to such a PC, and very much other things that comes into the minds of our customers that are really customer specific. Based on our standard license models, these things can be extended with our entitlements. So we have on the one side, to summarize that a little bit, we have on the one side the order of the entitlements and the processing of the entitlements and the orders. And on the other side, we have the entitlements, the usage of the entitlements. And on the left side, you are located as the independent software vendor or the intelligent device manufacturer. You want to sell software or functions of your software or services. And on the other side, you have your end users, your customers, and the licensees of these entitlements. And there has to be a flow from the one side to the other side. And there is an integration layer in between that connects the two systems. And if we have a little bit a closer look to that, you see we have the S4 system, the SAP system, and the SAP entitlement management that Mr. Glees shows very detailed in the first part of the webinar. And there is the other part, the License Central, our entitlement server for the technical entitlements. So there is the need that the definitions from the left side are transferred in a technical entitlement and activated on the end customer side on premise. So the information, what is allowed, what licenses does the customer has, and the licenses allows him to use certain functionalities of the software, that has to be transferred on the end customer side. And that's exactly the purpose of the License Central. And we will have a closer look to the process of this License Central. So in the database of the License Central, there are all entitlements, technical entitlements that are available for the customer. So it's the same items in the SAP management system and in our system, but our system defines at the end the technical entitlements, meaning the references that you have in your technical entitlements and what you are checking in the software. So if you start the software, you need a license to start the software. If you have certain functionalities in your software, then you need licenses, for example, in the feature-on-demand model. You need certain license entries to be allowed to use that functionalities in the software. And that's exactly what we have in our database. And that is at least the connection between the two systems. There is an administration entitlement, and we transfer it in a technical entitlement that we enforce on the end customer side. You build it in your software with our library. You check for that license entries, and you decide in your software what functionalities are available for a customer and which functionalities are not available for a customer. And the process to transfer these entitlements from the server system to the end user PC, that is what I have shown here. So there's an incoming order from the SAP system, for an entitlement system, and that leads to a so-called ticket. And that is the first thing that points to the license key later, because that is the password that allows an end user to activate the licenses he has bought on his system, on the PC, on a device. So in step 1, the order comes in and says, for this customer, please send me a ticket for the following entitlements. That is exactly what the License Central is doing. The ticket is created, and the system, the SAP system, sends this ticket to the customer. That can be an email that is directly sent to the customer. That can be a delivery form where this ticket code is printed in. But this ticket code, and most of you already used that in reality, because that is nothing else than a very good password of letters and digits divided by dashes that are transferred in your hands, so that you are able in step 4 to activate these licenses from your system where the licenses shall be used. So for the ticket is the password to get the licenses from the License Central. And the fingerprint, that is something that authenticates that end customer system. So if we use, for example, plain software licenses, we have to make sure that these licenses cannot be moved from one system to another system, or even more worse, duplicated to another system. Because we want to make sure, we want to enforce that the licenses are used in the way that you have defined it and the customer has bought it. So the fingerprint is created from the system and is sent together with the ticket to the License Central. The License Central knows, okay, for this ticket, the following entitlements are available. And then in the last step, you get the licenses transferred from that server system directly on your system, on the PC, on a device, on an embedded device. And that is the principle basic of our technology. You integrate the check for the licenses into your software, and you have a system here that delivers the entitlements and the licenses to the end customers according to that what he or she has bought from you. And that is, of course, defined in the SAP Entitlement Management System. And the order comes, for example, from the S4 system. So let's see how these two things, the SAP Entitlement System and our CodeMeter License Central, work together. So just a very simple view on that. You have the SAP Cloud, there's an S4, there's an SAP EMS. You have seen that in the first part. And there is our License Central in the WIBU Cloud, and there is an EMS connector which transfers the requests from the SAP EMS system directly to the License Central. So we have here a definition of the entitlement For example, a license for a software, a license for a support contract, or something like that. And this request is transferred to the EMS connector. The EMS connector talks to the license central and requests that license key, which is called ticket in our case. And the ticket is transported back to the system, and the SAP system cares about sending this license key, this ticket, to the end user. And the end user on the other side gets the software. The software has a code meter part integrated of WIBU-SYSTEMS to be able to check for the licenses in the license containers. And as I said before, you can use a dongle for it. You can use a plain software activation, or you can even use a cloud license container to store the license entries in. And the customer with that ticket goes to the portal and gets the licenses, the entitlements from the server, authenticated by that ticket, by that license key, on-premise on his systems. And later on, your software is checking when starting, when using a certain function, is checking for the entries of these license containers. The code meter system is built up in a way that there is no difference in accessing the licenses or in distributing the licenses, independent from if that is a dongle, a software license, or a cloud license. It is the same process. It is the same underlying technology. So you don't care in your software if a customer should use a dongle or if he uses a software license. You can define that prior to deliver it, or you can say, I want to have a dongle in certain regions of the world. I want to have a software license in other regions. I want to have the cloud licenses for a certain market segment. You can choose that, but you don't have to change your software in any way. It's transparent for the software what you are using there. And now we want to have a closer look on the customer experience when getting a license in a local license container. And that is exactly now the moment when I step back to the license key that Mr. Claes created in the first part of the webinar. And I have a short demo here as well. So I have a small application, the 3D print app. You remember Mr. Claes told about a software that is creating or printing with a printer the inlays for a dental, for a dentist or a data center for a dental care company. And you see, I've started my software, but I'm not allowed to use the functions of the software. I have no contract available. And I get now from my software vendor, I get an email that says, okay, dear customer, thank you very much for purchasing our product. Here is the activation code to activate the licenses on your system. And that is exactly the code that you have seen in the SAP system, and the entitlement management system, which was created for the entitlements triggered by an order that comes in from this customer. And so the way is like shown in my presentation before. You switch, you click on that license key. I switch to English here, and you see I have, for this license key, I'm allowed to get a license for the 3-year support that you have seen in the creation process before. And maybe you remember Mr. Claes created 12 of these licenses. So I have 11 available because I already activated one. But if I want to activate this license now on my system, I just push that button, and then you are in that process of creating the fingerprint and sending the fingerprint together with the ticket to the license central. And the license central sends back the update file to activate the licenses directly here on my system. And last but not least, in the online way, it's very easy. You also the system sends also a receipt back to the license central, so that the license central knows about the current status, when was which license activated on which system. And now I have my licenses now successfully transferred from the server system, from the license central, to my local system here. There's a serial number that indicates that I have now a license container on my system with the following serial number, and I have one license here on this system available for a 3-year support. And what does that mean to my application? So I go back to my application and I have a point refresh licenses, and you see I have the licenses successfully refreshed, and now I'm allowed, because now I have a local license container that allows me to use the software, and you see I have the contract that is indicating that I have a 3-year support and I'm allowed to use the application now. So that is the basic principle. Here in this application, you have you integrated our library or use our tool chain for protecting it, and the delivery of the licenses is done. The technical entitlements is done by the license central itself. So I switch back to my presentation and come directly to the conclusion. So where's the benefit for you? You have two systems that work perfectly together. On the one side, helping to administrate all the entitlements, and not only the entitlements for the real software and for the service contracts. You have, as you have seen in the first part, you have a lot of additional entitlements available in that system, and you can manage it with that system. We, on the other hand, take care as WIBU-SYSTEMS with our code reader technology to transport the technical entitlements to the end customer systems, to make sure that your intellectual property is secured, because we're not only using licenses, we are using cryptographic keys to support everything. With that technology, you can increase your sales revenue because you are secured of hackers. Nobody can duplicate your software, duplicate the licenses. So you are really sure that you get the revenue that you have to get from that what you sold to your customers. There is no revenue lost to unauthorized usage. And as I showed you before in my presentation, you have a lot of different license models available that fits to that what SAP is also supporting on their side, that fits to the needs of markets, of regions, of products very well. And you can use that because they are predefined, or you can even extend it. You reduce the costs because you have one system that works perfectly automated in a way that the order comes in and the technical entitlement is created on the other side of the complete chain. So that is an easy and cost-effective integration, because the SAP entitlement fits, of course, very well to all the SAP systems that you know on the system. And that's a perfect integration of all. And with all these information that are collected and put together, as well, you as your customers have the complete transparency over the entitlements and licenses. On the one side, the definition of everything, and on the one side, what happens in the field at the end, where the activations are working for your money. And now we are at the end. So I want to check if we have some questions. So there's one question coming in asking for SAP and WIBU cloud solutions. Is it possible to use that on-premise as well? So maybe I answer first for WIBU. So the License Central is a server system that can be used in your data center on-premise, but you can also host it in our data center. And I give the other part of the questions to Mr. Claes concerning the SAP entitlement system.
Thanks for the question. The entitlement management system is, as said, built on our business technology platform and is offered as a public cloud solution. So it's only available as a public cloud solution. It obviously, as described, connects to any other system, be it a sales solution or an ERP solution, that can be either cloud or on-prem. But the solution itself, EMS, is a public cloud solution that we offer from different data centers in Europe and Asia and US, but only as a public cloud offering.
Thank you. And there's another question concerning online and offline features. Is it possible to use the technical entitlements also on-premise when the systems are not connected to the internet? Yes, that is what I mentioned before, because in the industrial sector, it is very important to have a solution that transfers the entitlements to an offline system, because the devices are very often not connected to the internet. And what I have shown in my presentation and in the live demo, the ping pong game between the device and the license center, that is under the hood nothing else than an interchange of files. So the fingerprint is a file, the ticket is integrated in that request. So you send a file and a ticket to the server system, and in case of an offline system, you create that fingerprint file, for example, with our API or with the tool on that, so that you have a file that you transfer from the offline system to the online system. And when you have an online system, then you can perform that process again. You send the fingerprint file and the ticket to the license central, and you get back an activation file, and that is again a file, and you put that file from the online server or from the online PC to your offline PC and activate the licenses then locally on that system. So it's a kind of a sneaker interface between the two systems, but that is the way how it works. So it's exactly the same way, online and offline, but we have just a difference between you don't remark anything because you are connected, or you have to do something, put a file from one system to another and back, and that is the difference. So that was all. We have no more questions. So we have reached the end of our webinar. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope to have you again in one of our other WIBU-System webinars. And of course, a very special thank to Mr. Claes for presenting the part of the SAP entitlement solution. Very, very good. Thanks a lot. And
my pleasure.
Goodbye to all of you, wherever you joined our webinar. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.